this is just what happens. This is just politics, and we probably will have a delay probably in the stablecoin bill votes or market structure bill votes down the road, but that's how the political process works here. So I'm not too concerned, candidly. I do not think we'll get a bill done, if not this summer, for sure the fall. But
This content is brought to you by VeChain, which is a leading enterprise-grade Layer 1 public blockchain spearheading a digital revolution from a sustainable, highly scalable smart contract platform. The VeChain blockchain has many unique features, which makes it an ideal choice for Web3 applications. VeChain is working with many great enterprises such as PwC, Givenchy, BMW, and Walmart China. Most recently, they partnered with the Boston Consulting Group to build a revolutionary decentralized application ecosystem. I'm a big believer in this project. I have been since 2018. I've been a VET token holder for years. And this blockchain is highly scalable, great with security and speed, and it has low energy consumption. If you'd like to learn more about VeChain, please visit vchain.org. Link will be in the description. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and joining me today is Ron Hammond, who's the Senior Director of Government Relations at the Blockchain Association. And Ron and I are going to talk about everything that took place this week with the crypto hearings and much more. Ron, it's great to see you.
always great to see you, Tony. And there's definitely a lot going on per usual. So really glad to get into all of it.
Absolutely. Of course, I thought of you with everything that took place in DC this week around crypto. So there was a major crypto hearing. Tell us about this hearing, what it was about, and what were the major takeaways for you?
Sure thing. So the important thing to look at, this is the joint committee hearing with the Ag Committee as well as the Financial Service Committee. So we saw this 2 years ago with the market structure bill, and that's what eventually became the product known as FIT 21 that eventually became a floor vote that has really bipartisan. Obviously, it didn't get signed into law in 2023 and 2024, but here we are doing the same thing over again. But this time we have a draft. We had a draft dropped about 24 hours before the hearing started. And it's a different version of Fit 21, but overall it was we know what kind of what the playbook is, and they seem to be going pretty fast, especially with stablecoin, and I'm sure we'll get to that drama soon. But as the Senate seems to be working on stablecoins, the House is really gung ho with the market structure side of things. And there was a little antics part of that hearing here, but and how to get into that as well. But overall, it's exciting to see that market structure, the starting gun, has officially gone off. And last year or last go around, it was 3 years till, or sorry, it was 3 months until it got signed by the committee. It's gonna be going a lot faster. So get ready. It seems like crypto is gonna be the hot topic in DC this spring and summer.
That's exciting and glad to see there's progress being made. So you mentioned this was focused on the crypto market structure. Now, like you mentioned also, the FIT 21 got passed in the House. So is this an update to the FIT 21? Is it a combination of the Senate's version, or is this still the House fine-tuning the FIT 21?
This is the House fine-tuning Fit 21. This is, at least what we've seen so far, the Senate seems to be the lead, at least when it comes to holding the pen for stablecoins. Even though the House had their own version, it seems all the actions be happening around the Senate. And it seems to be the inverse, though, for market structure, where the House is going to be taking a lot of the action and a lot of the pen writing, whereas the Senate, they probably will have their own version, it seems like, but they won't be the ones really dictating, at least at this stage, kind of what the text is. So the text is still open to change. We're seeing going through the stablecoin bill. These bills do evolve over time with managers' amendments or hearings and markups. And so it'll definitely look a little different here. But overall, this is definitely a different bill than we saw 2 years ago. And at least the initial reads from folks in the industry I've been talking to have been largely positive. A lot of improvements, more for the industry side. So that's really exciting to see. There's a lot of feedback that they had, a lot of meetings that I personally was in, but they took, plethora of those more. But it seems that the edits that they put in this go around largely were very good for the industry, and folks are really positive about it. So we'll see what happens with all the drama going on in the Senate, if that actually makes it to a bill and sign the law.
Now, I think you alluded to this and touched a bit on it. I'm curious, is the industry weighing in directly, like giving Congress, here's our ideas, and are you and the folks at Blockchain Association doing the same thing? Because we know many folks in Congress don't fully understand this technology, and a lot of folks are like, we need to make sure that we go through this with a fine-tooth comb because we don't want the wrong things to be put into these bills.
100%. And actually, this is kind of what lobbying is like years in the making. So a lot of these bills that we were talking about on this show, when I would first go on, 3, 4 years ago, we know those bills never became law. But actually, those bills were so instrumental into shaping of what Fit 21 or whatever this bill they're going to call it is right now. Because right now, or as we're seeing with the stablecoin bill, if there's certain issues with a certain industry, it's really hard to change it once you start having votes on the record for one version of a bill, and then you start changing it midway through. And you have all these other groups weighing in. So that's why it's so pivotal to focus on these early bills in the early stages, even though they might not pass for 2 to 3 years, because those bills eventually become the base text of what you're going off of. And you never know what happens when it goes to the main stage. And we're seeing that right now with stablecoin bill, where we have a lot of Democrats throwing in things like meme coin amendments or national security amendments. And this is all brand new stuff, but the bill does really evolve over time when it's at the main stage. And that's a lot harder to really picture what the final product's going to be. So we've been working on that for quite some time. But for market structure in particular, I've had, at least myself, over a dozen meetings with the drafters on both sides of the aisle to weigh on this stuff and bring in various companies in who are blockchain association members to weigh in on a particular topic. So, but the upside to the committee drafters is that they've been listening, they've been receptive, and we've been seeing it reflected in the changes.
And of course, shout out to you and Congressman Warren Davidson going back to what, 2017 or something? Token Taxonomy Act. I remember that. You guys were ahead of the curve there.
Yeah, that's what how the sausage is made, and it's kind of weird to think about a market structure bill, like the one I worked on, for example. Again, it was just more of the base and the principles that we'll see reflected in the final bill became its market structure. But that was 2017 when I started working on that. So it's crazy to think it's 8 years later and we might get that bill across the finish line this year. But that's how Congress works. It's a little slow, and you got to get in early, but it's really important to like have your thoughts and to weigh in with Congress because obviously we don't want it to be 8 years, but this is the political process as it is right now.
Oh, for sure. Excuse me. Now, Ron, this week we saw Maxine Waters and some Democrats put up a fight pushing back on some of these things. Some of it may be like political posturing, but they also seem to want to get certain language into some of these bills. Tell us what happened with Maxine Waters, her walkout, and things like that.
Yeah, I was actually at the hearing room behind Alex Miller from Hero when this is all going on. And it was leaked to the press that this was going to happen a day before, so we expected this kind of fanfare. For those who follow crypto policy, you might remember 2 years ago when the stablecoin and market structure bill were going for a vote. We saw a similar blow up with Maxine Waters and Patrick McHenry at the time. I was a little afraid it was going to be something similar to like that, but candidly, it wasn't as bad or as if loud as it was 2 years ago. They broke off and did their own hearing. About I'd say like half the Democrats left. But that's the crazy thing to watch is that we've seen a lot of Democrats defy Maxine Waters, including Angie Craig, who is the ag ranking member. They stayed in defiance of Maxine Waters and like half their party. And it was ironically, or very telling, it was the younger part of the Democrats who were usually staying.
Yeah.
I think the average age of those who went to their own, you can call it counter hearing, was 70 years, 71 years. Which is crazy to think, but that's also probably telling of just the Democrat Party as a whole in the direction of where they're thinking about going. So I think it was kind of interesting to see the macro breaks in the Democrat current party, seeing that reflected in crypto, seeing so many Democrats defy Maxine Waters and more of the older Democrats, and having a really robust conversation in the hearing. So that's what's going to be necessary to kind of break through the political noise, and we're seeing that political noise really come over from a lot of the Democrats, especially in the Senate, when it's focusing a lot on the Trump meme coin or they're focusing on worldly financial. Even those are not really necessarily related to stablecoin regulation. This is just what happens. This is just politics, and we probably will have a delay probably in the stablecoin bill votes or market structure bill votes down the road, but that's how the political process works here. So I'm not too concerned, candidly. I do think we'll get a bill done, if not this summer, for sure the fall, but it's hard to tell and map out at this point, just given all the politics.
Yeah, I'm hoping I know you mentioned we'll get it done. I'm just hoping they don't escalate it and it becomes a big blow up, because we need to get this done. Now, there was, aside from, those folks concerned about, okay, Trump and his businesses and all that, it seems like they're also trying to get certain language into the bills. And I don't know if it's too early to answer this question yet. Is that language or what they're trying to put in, something draconian, something that is not conducive to innovation? What can you tell us there?
We've seen a variety of Democratic proposals in the past. For example, there's the Elizabeth Warren bill, the DAMLA. That's one that always sticks out for, in their mind, solving a national security issue. But the industry and Republicans and most Democrats say that's a bad bill. We've seen a lot of focus recently on the meme coin stuff, which again, meme coins weren't in the neither bill, Fit 21, the market structure effort, as well as the stablecoin bill last Congress. And so given the conversation around President Trump, I'm sure there's been an effort to put something around meme coins and elected officials. And I've seen something on Twitter even today of some senators proposing that. And we've seen various legislative proposals this year from Democrats. So this is kind of the jockeying that goes on back and forth, though. So we'll just have to see what the final product is. But that's why it's so important to get these conversations early and to get good bill text, because that arms the senators when they're having these negotiations. Because and many times, not even the staff's there. It's just with the 75-year-old members of Congress talking about stable coins and meme coins, which is shocking to think about. But that's why education is so important, because you want to make sure you have folks who know what they're talking about in the room, and you can win these conversations. So it's great we're here. It took years to get to this point, and that's what's currently going on right now in the Capitol. But education is important, and this is not going to be the first time this happens this year or the second time. This is going to be an ongoing process. So while tensions are high right now, I am sure this will keep continuing and be sort of for more conversations on podcasts, because we're main stage, and it's pretty exciting to say the least.
Oh, for sure. And I can imagine from a political standpoint, Democrats, you got the midterms on the horizon, and they're going to try to use anything they can to say, oh, you see Trump or this or that, right? Even though this is not a political issue per se, it's just a technology, but they're going to try to make it that. It's just the game of politics, essentially.
Exactly. And I'll say, I know many of these Democrats who are going against, or trying to put some roadblocks currently in the stablecoin bill. A lot of these senators are pro-crypto. They've been pro-crypto in many cases for years now. So I'm not too concerned. Now, the question is kind of what changes they want to fix to address this. But largely, at the end of the day, this is a political problem. And for folks who really don't follow politics at a macro level, you just have to remember that they've been working on nominations for the past 4 months for the Trump administration, and those only require a simple majority. They've been doing the funding bill, and that's kind of it. And so this is the stablecoin bill. It's kind of the first big bill for the new Congress. And so for any senator who wants to make his name for him or herself, or at least try to get in the media and such, this is the first vehicle. So if it was any bill out there, I would say this would be subject to political drama. It just so happens it's stablecoins. It's incredible it's stablecoins. The idea that stablecoins is being the first big bill in the Senate. But this is where the politics that happens, regardless of what was going to happen here. So I'm not too concerned personally. I know where our Senate Democrat allies are coming from, but at the end of the day, they are allies. We've worked a long time to educate these folks, but this is largely a political situation.
Great insight there that, the first bill coming up, everybody's trying to make their name and things like that. So that definitely makes sense. Now, do you believe that both of these bills will make it through together in the Senate and eventually head to President Trump at the same time, or will there be different timelines?
That's the political calculus that this situation in politics, though, is kind of messing up at this current moment. There's different camps. There's some folks saying, hey, given all the politics and now partisan nature around stablecoins, for example, maybe it's just easier to have one bill. The problem with one bill, though, is that as we're seeing right now, amendments can happen on the fly. You really don't know what the final product is. And in some cases, if you want to get the most clear legislation, a party controlling both chambers of Congress is the perfect time. That's you can get the most clear language, the least amount of amendments that can mess up and creates an ambiguity that kicks it over to the regulators. And so hypothetically, this is the best time to do a market structure bill on really weedy topics like decentralization. On the other hand, there's a situation where maybe the political appetite is just to do stablecoins, and if you run the risk of not getting to market structure, or there's not political will to get market structure done, then you're sitting dead in the water and you waste an opportunity. And now it's all on the agencies to do everything that we've waited for years for Congress to do. And so that's why some people are saying, hey, let's just do one bill. Let's get as much as we can from both these very important bills for the industry, and let's have a vote before August. And again, I was telling everyone here, you really can't map out politics here, especially as we're seeing right now with this week. These things do happen. And so it seems like the one bill strategy might be winning, just given the current landscape right now. I'm sure if you talk to me next week, it'll be a different story. These things move quickly, but overall, I'll say we're largely looking at one bill at the current landscape as it is. Will it happen before August? Remains to be seen. Again, it just depends how long this drags out. But the good news is the House is moving, and so the House is going to be moving market structure, and it's pretty likely we'll have votes in the committees and possibly in the House on market structure in the next month or two.
Hmm. Well, to your point, it's great that we're seeing progress, and even if it's just in the house, the things are going, balls rolling, gears are turning, right? Are there any other major upcoming hearings that we should be aware of?
On the hearing front, no. The dates we're looking at is that the House Financial Services Committee said that there's going to be a vote on a series of bills. They haven't said the bills, but on, I believe, is May 20th and May 21st. Now, we believe that's going to be the market structure bill. Again, that's just the committee vote, so that's just the next step to go into House floor vote. But it is possible we could see a market structure bill vote in committee come up at the end of May. And given the antics that happened this week with some of the Democrats walking out, they'll be telling, will there be more Democrats in support of this bill this go around? Recall, we did get, I believe, it was 6 Democrats in Financial Services, as well as complete unanimous votes for all the Democrats in House Ag. So will we keep those numbers? Will we gain more or we lose some? That'll be very, very telling in terms of just where the politics is and how much Congress has grown as the most pro-crypto Congress. So stay tuned for that. And watch the Senate. I think the Senate's gonna be where all the action is. And maybe there'll be a vote today. It's Thursday, the 8th. It's scheduled to have a vote of cloture, which means kind of like the next step for a stablecoin bill vote. And if it does get pushed, let's see when it gets pushed till. So stand by. It's gonna get really excited, but it's gonna be evolving very quickly.
Oh, for sure. I don't know if this makes sense to even talk about, but it's funny. I'm seeing kind of the resurgence, a little bit of the anti-crypto army. Elizabeth Warren talking a bit about crypto. Gensler pops out of MIT, goes on TV, starts talking about Bitcoin. All of a sudden, it's like, wait, where did he come from? Is there anything to be concerned about there, or you think that army's Sherrod Brown, all these guys are gone? They're just some politics being played out here.
It's politics, but the unfortunate thing is it's very heavy media driven. We saw, I believe it was last week with Congress out, we saw 3 New York Times, very in-depth pieces, and all very, very factual and very true for the most part, but they all came out on Tether, World Financial, as well as Trump stablecoin, all within a very short amount of time. We saw the Atlantic, Wall Street Journal, all the same time here too. And again, when you're in the Democrats here, you don't have too much levers of power here. But when you see an opportunity, you take it, especially when it comes to like finance policy, which it's really hard to attack the sitting president on finance policy. But you see an angle, and there's plenty of angles the Trump family is giving them, they'll take it. And so, that's just the unfortunate truth. And we want to make sure that, hey, at least just when it comes to the bill votes, let's keep the politics out of here. Let's focus on actually just getting regulation for stable coins. Like that's pretty simple, but unfortunately, politics has a way of messing that up. So, but overall, I feel like I still feel really confident and knowing that there's a lot of people who understand that this is the technology here and this needs to stay and this is important. And there's enough people in Congress on both sides who realize that. So buckle up, it'll be fun, but it's a lot to say the least.
Oh, for sure. Final item I want to ask you about here. We got New Hampshire and Arizona have passed Bitcoin strategic reserve bills on the state level, of course. Are you hearing anything in DC as a result of this, and how does this maybe impact the federal level strategic Bitcoin reserve bill? I don't know if there's any updates that you can share there.
I haven't heard too much. We see Treasury's going to be, they just announced recently they're going to be doing roundtables. And that's usually the department I would look at when it comes to reserve itself. And a lot of the actions is the Treasury Department. So maybe we'll get some more clarity next week on that front. I do know also that there's the last report that the White House and the executive order is slated to issue, which is the end of July. I believe the 23rd of July is when it's slated. So we could see more details there about what they do plan for their final EO, potentially executive order, potentially it could be on the reserve itself, maybe more details there, or more just a report on what the D reserve should be. So I would look at the end of July as the kind of last time we'll get some more clarity. Otherwise, it'll come from the agencies or Congress. But overall, it's a little quiet given the developments in Congress on stablecoins. That's been taken up the auction, to say the least.
Oh, for sure. Ron, I have a funny feeling that you and I are going to be talking a lot this month and June as things.
Stay tuned. It's going to be fun. But just I'm just warning everyone, this is politics, and so just because it might be happening this week, it is very likely it could happen the week after, and maybe the week after that, because that's just how DC doesn't work sometimes.
That's how the sausage is made, man. Love it or hate it, right?
Of course.
Ron, thank you so much. Appreciate the knowledge and insights, and I'm sure we'll be probably talking next week or the week after.
Sounds good, Tony. Always good to be back on and really appreciate it.